to let out a cheer. We're going to do more than that, but like you can fire up a little, Yeah, here we go. This just feels so extraordinarily normal. Oh, wow. Normal's kind of great. Remember how we took normal for granted? That won't ever happen again, huh?
No.
That won't ever happen again. I will say one thing that is not normal about this Shabbat evening. Not normal. And that is back when we used to gather, for years and years and years, decades, every Friday night in the summer in this space, 7:30 p.m., and picnic tables were set up. Never, ever once until tonight did everybody just pick up from the picnic table at 7:20 and just walk themselves into the chapel without Rabbi Bernie, and she remembers.
I do.
Going on there and whoosh,
It's because they're used to the mute button on
the
Zoom.
fried chicken away. It's time to pray. Yeah, so it's not normal. What can I tell you? That was not normal. Maybe that's the new normal. If that's the new normal, God, I love you people even more than I already did. It seems impossible, but that was amazing. I just kind of, all of a sudden, I'm like schmoozing. I'm like the last one. I'm schmoozing with a couple people. I look around, well, everybody's walking into the chapel by themselves. Maybe it was the attraction of being inside this space again for the very first time. The reality is the screwball fire that burned this entire hillside black was in December of 2017. And it may feel like 3.5 years, a long time to wait to be back inside this space. The truth of the matter is you got to remember that 15 months of that time, we could have been back in here. We just couldn't come back together in person. It would have been ready for last summer. That was always the plan. So it was ready, but we weren't due to a virus. And so we waited another year. Along the way, as I said, we had to obviously stabilize the hillside. And we're still in the process, actually, down below, as you can see, we're still in the process of replanting. So fire retardant planting and whatnot that the deer just thought was delicious. They live up in the hillside, and they've gotten very bold during the pandemic because there weren't so many of us around. And so every now and then I'd come by the temple to pick up some books or whatever it might be, and there'd be like 8 of them traipsing around the campus just making themselves at home. And then I'd look up on the hillside, and it was Shabbat dinner for all of them. And we didn't get them to register or pay for it, nothing, They're the worst members of Wheelback Temple. They take and never give. But in all seriousness, yeah, exactly. That's the chair of annual giving, Glenn Gottlieb there. He'll be in touch with them shortly. In any case, thank you, Glenn. The truth is there's actually a great beauty about the fact that this spot, which has always been so city and so rustic all at once, to see it kind of come to life for the animals like that was just really, really fascinating. And I encourage you, now that we're back in force, you see less and less of them, of course, but every now and then they will peek out. And so keep your eyes every now and then on the hillside before it gets dark out here, and you may have an opportunity to see a little of our neighboring wildlife. We would see one every now and then, and we kind of lovingly named him Leo Buck. And then, yeah, I know. I'll blame somebody else for the name, because I don't think it was actually my name. Abigail, did you come up with that? That's your fault, right?
Always.
Everything's my fault. I'm the executive director, and that's my job, is for it to be my fault. Yes, the whole family is up there in the hills, and they may come and visit us while we're praying. But meanwhile, before we begin, and I say this to those who are joining us online as well, we're back inside a space that has held an awful lot of holiness for this community for a long, long time. When I first became the rabbi of this congregation in July of 2003, a long time ago, my first services were out here, because that's where we were already praying every Shabbat in the summer, coming during daylight and literally making Shabbat as Shabbat would arrive, as the sunlight would disappear in this beautiful spot. And so this place, for me, obviously has all kinds of deep resonances, but for so many of you as well, whether it was those Shabbatot or even one particular Shabbat, or maybe some of the Torah that we studied with one another in here, life cycle moments that we've made inside this space, religious school moments that took place inside this space. How many fifth grade weddings did I officiate inside this space? There you go, Belson's. There you go, exactly. How many fifth grade weddings did I officiate inside this very space? An awful lot of beauty and moments that the air still holds here. I do want to give special thanks. There are a lot of folks who contributed to making this beautiful space come to life again as you're experiencing it here tonight, better than ever. First, I want to say that those of you who go back a long, long time in our congregation know that this space was originally designed by past president of Leo Beck Temple and a now deceased legendary architect in this town, Lee Miller. When it came time to bring this space back to life, we quickly knew who to call. We picked up the phone, had to call to the East Coast to do it, but his son, Matthew Anderson Miller, who was a member of our congregation with his family until he moved east, also an extraordinarily talented architect, chip off the old block. And we said, Matt, how would you feel about bringing Dad's vision back to life, but with new eyes? And he couldn't have been more excited about that. And so for the long-timers among us, I want to point out that you're sitting in the Miller family's work yet again, just another generation. And that is itself a part of the story of this space. I want to give special thanks to our immediate past president who's seated there in the very back. That's Lloyd Segan.
Woo!
Lloyd is a vision guy, and so he starts playing with his imagination, and the next thing you know, you've got a chapel that reminds you a lot of the old one, but is just better in about 1,000 different ways. And that's true with regard to light. You'll see as it gets dark, you'll actually be able to read your prayer books. It'll be such a change of pace from what it was in the old days. The sound, the wood itself, the benches, everything about it is a step forward for our community, and that was lovingly shepherded at every step of the way by Lloyd. We are deeply, deeply grateful to your dedication that was simply not going to stop until the job was done, and done so beautifully and beyond. And so thank you. So what I want to have you do before we join together in making services tonight, we're going to start creating new Shabbat memories for our community here together in this space. But before we do that, I want to give everybody an opportunity, especially those who've been with us for some time. We recognize there are some newcomers who are with us, some folks who joined us during those 3.5 years, so maybe it's your very first time here, maybe some visitors who are here with us for the first time tonight for Shabbat. So for you, it may just be about lingering in Shabbat space and time for a moment or two, but for the rest, those who have memories that are situated here, I want to give you a quiet moment to kind of draw all of that back to mind and heart and soul so that we can sanctify and connect all those experiences that came before into this space and all that will follow after it, which we begin together to create tonight. For our community, this is a moment that joins that long list of unforgettable moments, moments that are a part of our congregation's history. And that's so true for all of us who have loved this place for so long, and even those who are just coming to love it. And so we bless moments in this tradition. There's no blessing for a chapel. There is, however, a blessing for being inside this chapel together as a community, as one, for the very first time. That blessing is familiar to most of you. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, she'achianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We praise you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, for giving us the gift of life and sustaining us through these crazy 15 months, a perilous time for every human all across the world, so that we might arrive in this moment so filled with beauty, connected to moments of beauty and profound spirituality across the decades. If you'd like to have the words of Shechianu in front of you as we bless this chapel and its return, this night of our return to it, you can find the words in the prayer book on page 344. And I just want to hear your voices singing it. Baruch. Everybody can do the amen. Welcome home.
A poem by Mary Oliver entitled When I Am Among the Trees to help us welcome in this sacred space. When I am among the trees, especially the willows and the honey locusts, equally the beech, the oaks, and the pines, they give us such hints of gladness. I would almost say that they save me. And daily I am so distant from the hope of myself, in which I have goodness and discernment, and never hurry through the world, but walk slowly and bow often. Around me the trees stir in their leaves and call out, "Stay a while." The light flows from their branches, and they call again. It's simple, they say, and you too have come into the world to do this, to go easy, to be filled with light, and to shine. We are going to use these words as our intention for coming together this Shabbat, and we'll begin with words of praise, Shir Chadash, on page 344. 344.
If you were already there for the Shechianu, same page.
How about that?
Amazing planning. Got a little more than that. Sing unto God all the earth a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Adonai, Haaretz. Shiru Adonai, Shir Kadash. Shiru Adonai.
We welcome our Shabbat bride with Lecha Dodi. We are on page 20.
We're going to be singing the first two verses on page 20 and then the top and bottom verses on 21. So what numbers are those, Robert?
Yeah,
Bernie?
no big deal.
1, 2, 5, and 9. You guys, the veterans, they know. The Friday night regulars, they're all over it. Verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. Please join us in welcoming the bride of Shabbat in beauty. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha, Yishmi'anu el hamiyuchad. Adonai echad hu shemo echad, L'shem u'tiferet v'tihila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Likrat Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, Ki hi mekor habracha. Merosh mikedem nesucha, Sof ma'aseh v'machshavat chila. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Top of 21. Hitoreri, hitoreri, Ki va'orech kumi horim, Uri uri shidaberi, Kivod Adonai alayich nigla. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. I invite you to stand if you're able and to face the entrance to this beautiful space, now ours once again. And let us see her. Shabbat HaMalkah, Sabbath Queen, bride, coming to bring us a vision of beauty for what we can make of this world. Boi v'shalom ateret ba'ala, Gam b'simcha u'v'tzola, Toch emunei am segula. Boi chala, boi chala. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela. Lecha dodi likrat kala, Pnei Shabbat nikabela.
Our prayer to worship, the Baruch Hu, on 28. We continue standing.
Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la. Barechu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Leolam Vaed. Leolam Vaed. Ya la 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 la, 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 ya la 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 la.
As we mark the miracle of creation moving from light back into darkness and back into light, a reading by Reuben Zellman. It's called Twilight People. As the sun sinks and the colors of the day turn, we offer a blessing for the twilight. For twilight is neither day nor night, but in between. We are all twilight people. We can never be fully labeled or defined. We are many identities and loves, many genders and none. We are in between roles at the intersection of histories or between place and place. We are crisscrossed paths of memory and destination, streaks of light swirled together. We are neither day nor night. We are both, neither, and all. May the sacred in between of this evening suspend our certainties, soften our judgments, and widen our vision. May this in-between light illuminate our way to God, who transcends all categories and all definitions. And may the in-between people who have come to pray be lifted up into this twilight. We cannot always define. We can always say a blessing. Blessed are you, God of all, who brings on the twilight.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Vaed. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai echad.
Page 36.
ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך, ושיננתם לבניך, ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך, ובלכתך בדרך, ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם לאות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
We are going to join together responsively on the bottom of 39. In a world torn by violence and pain, a world far from wholeness and peace, give us the courage to say, Adonai, there is one God in heaven and earth.
The high heavens declare your glory. May earth reveal your justice and love.
From bondage in Egypt, we were delivered, and at Sinai, we bound ourselves to your way.
Inspired by prophets and instructed by sages, time and again we overcame oppressive forces.
Though our failings are many and our faults are great, it has been our glory to bear witness to our God, keeping alive in dark ages your vision of a world redeemed.
Let us continue to work for the day when the nations will be one and at peace. Then shall we rejoice as Israel did, singing on the shores of the sea.
We rejoice together on page 40, Mi Chamocha.
Yai lai lai la lai la 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 ya la la lai la lai la 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 ya la la lai la lai la 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 ya la lai lai la 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 la. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi chamocha nedar b'kodesh, nora tzihirot oseh pele, nora tzihirot oseh pele. מלכותך ראו בניך, בוקע הים לפני משה. זה אלינו ואמרו, זה אלינו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד.
The Hashkivenu prayer holds a special significance for me. It's the prayer that we bless our children with at night. It is the prayer that our religious school students on Wednesday afternoons sing together, arm in arm, with their eyes closed, reminding us that there can be peace in this world. And I see many of our religious school students, some who are graduating, some who have graduated, some who are still in various parts of our program. And it's also a special prayer because it reminds me of being in this place and thinking of us being huddled together, surrounded by the beauty and the tranquility of our campus and of this place. And so we're going to join together in this prayer that comes from the Babylonia, which was the center of Jewish life. And it was created at a time when the nights were particularly frightening. And so they asked God for divine protection. And so we pray this, asking for the protection of God, asking for the protection of one another as we move into our prayer, our nighttime prayer, Hashkivenu. Please join us. It is on our supplemental page.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Just our voices. Amen. 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 Amen.
Page 46. Please rise.
Adonai Svatai Tiftach. Adonai Svatai Tiftach. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. Ufi Yagi Tehilatecha. That's all there is to it. Same words, same melody. Adonai Svatai. Adonai Svatai Tiftach. Adonai Svatai Tiftach. Ufi Yagid Tehilatecha. Yagid Tehilatecha. Baruch Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu ve'Elohei avotenu ve'imotenu Elohei Avraham Elohei Yitzchak Elohei Yaakov Elohei Sarah Elohei Rivka Elohei Rachel ve'Elohei Leah Ha'el hagadol hagibor v'hanora El Elyon Gomel chasadim tovim V'konei hakol V'zocher chasdei avot ve'imahot U'mevig geulah livnei v'neihem Leman shemo be'ava Melech ozer u'moshiach u'magen Baruch atah Adonai Magen Avraham ve'ezrat Sarah אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיי הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים. ומקיים אמונתו נשני עפר מי כמוך בעל גבורות ומי דומה לך מלך ממית ומחיה ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות הכל ברוך אתה אדוני מחיה הכל אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue silently words of the Amidah found through page 62 or the words of your heart, and you can be seated whenever you are ready.
This exercise of praying together is an extremely powerful thing in our lives because we face all kinds of giant question marks for which there are no answers. I always like to look upon the turf of religion as we're in the questions you can't answer business. Lots of other businesses are really proud of the way they answer all your questions. Not us. We're really proud of the way we tell you, that's a really good question.
And ask you another question.
And then we ask you another question in return. It's always the rabbinic answer. But in all seriousness, there are so many questions that fill our hearts with a sense of wonderment and also disequilibrium. It's all the biggest questions in our lives that we can't answer. Why are we here? Why am I alive? Why at this moment in time? Why in this body, not yours? And if it's a giant question about why I live, so too the giant question about why I die, or how I die, or when I die. It's all the big questions that there are no answers for. And so this tradition of ours, of joining together in community to name that and to pray together, to just find strength in being with one another and calling out together collectively for an answer, has brought an awful lot of comfort to our people for hundreds and hundreds of years. And this last year plus has been filled with all kinds of questions that we never thought we'd ever have to ask or answer before. I'm not talking about the scientific ones. Thank God the scientists knew how to vaccinate us. They could figure that out. That's the kind of question that is for the business of those who can deliver answers. Our question is how to walk alongside all of that unknowingness. Some of you were with us a few weeks ago when we prayed together on this campus for the very first time as a community after 15 months of being apart. And in the beauty, we were out on the promenade, we still needed to be distanced and masked, so there was no way for us to pray in this space, even though it was ready and waiting for us. So we were there on the promenade, and some of you who were here, or if you were with us via our live stream, you heard that moment when another one of those questions we can't answer came up, because we are both city and country here at Leobeck Temple. Right there along Sepulveda Boulevard, a terrible car accident took place right as we were transitioning into the Shema for the first time as a community. Multi-car pileup, bang, bang, bang. You could hear it on the live stream as well. So wherever you were joining with us, Shema was disrupted. Rabbi Ross kind of gave us a moment to hold that unknowingness moment. Please God, let them be okay. And incidentally, they were, thank God. Abigail ran out there to take good care of them out on the street that night. Yeah, they were okay, but how and why there and why then? All kinds of questions we don't know how to answer. We have to learn how to walk alongside not knowing. And then this week in Florida, how do we even begin to assimilate these kinds of things? And so all we can do is find strength in knowing that we are not alone. That's why to be a part of this. And I don't just mean this, but I mean this. And the big, writ large this. Being a part of a community leaves you a lot less alone when you're living with learning how to walk alongside those questions you don't know how to answer. None of us know. And that's why coming out of the silence, it's our custom to sing these words that are found the next to bottom of page 62. We're praying that all will be well. All the time. Yihiyu l'ratzon imrei fi, v'hegyon libi lefanecha Adonai, tzuri v'goali. May the words of my mouth and the meditations of my heart be acceptable to you, Adonai, my rock and my redeemer. Please God, as we ask our questions and know there is no answer forthcoming, let all be well. Let us find strength in walking together alongside the questions. Yihiyu l'ratzon ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. יהיו רצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי, צורי וגואלי. יהיו לרצון אמרפי והגיון ליבי לפניך, אדוני צורי, אדוני צורי וגואלי. צורי וגואלי.
Last year, thanks to her classmates, my daughter Shifra fell in love with Elsa and Anna, the two sisters from Disney's Frozen. And if you were on Shabbat Table Blessings tonight, she was queuing up my sermon because she had in one hand Elsa, her Barbie doll that my mom just got her, and Anna in the other that she was showing off. And there are Elsa and Anna stickers, and Elsa and Anna pajamas, and Elsa and Anna dolls, and there could never be too much Elsa and Anna. But she always insisted that Elsa was Anna and that Anna was Elsa, and she refused to listen to any evidence to the contrary. And the stakes weren't so high, and so Josh and I kind of just went with it. And I will say I found her conviction to be both highly endearing and slightly frustrating, particularly when Josh occasionally prompted tantrums by forgetting to swap their names. Yes, sometimes on camera. Until I realized that there are moments when I, and probably most of us, also hold on, perhaps too tightly, to a particular contention. That sometimes we are the obstinate 3-year-old, neglecting to make room for any possibility beyond our limited perspective. Only more often than not, for us, the stakes are just a tad bit higher than Disney characters. In this week's Torah portion, Balak, our tradition reminds us of just how uncompromising we adults can be through the playful tale of a wise donkey and a blind sorcerer. When the Moabite king Balak learns that the Israelites are approaching his territory, he hires the seer Balaam to place a curse on them, lest they conquer his territory. And the sorcerer saddles his donkey and sets off to deliver his curse upon the Israelites. But God stations an angel with a sword in hand to block his path 3 times. First, the angel appears in the open air, so the donkey swerves away. And next, the angel appears in an open field. And so, an open path between two vineyards. And so the donkey stops. And finally, the angel appears on a path that is so narrow that instead of pausing, the donkey just lies down. And each time, the seer cannot see the angel and beats the donkey for slowing their journey. So finally, the donkey gets fed up. This is all in the Torah, and says to Balak, "What have I done to be beaten 3 times?" And Balaam, somehow still overconfident and clueless, replies, "How dare you mock me?" and threatens to kill the donkey when finally, according to the text, God opens Balaam's eyes. And only then does the sorcerer recognize the angel and realize that he, not the donkey, has defiantly strayed from the path that he was meant to be on. Rabbi Larry Kushner explains this story that it is about the folly of a human ego, self-destructively preoccupied with its own agenda instead of discerning God's. It is, according to this parable sequence, about being rerouted, squeezed, and finally stopped until you get your eyes opened and see what's really going on. It's about learning to hear and to see the world in new ways. But the question is, can we do that? Organizational psychologist Adam Grant's recent book, Think Again. Have people read this, Think Again? Of course, Dr. Michael Zeldin, my teacher, has read, thank you, this book. The Power of Knowing What You Don't Know. It opens with a chapter entitled The Joy of Being Wrong. And it doesn't open with this chapter. One of the chapters is The Joy of Being Wrong, but it opens with this quote from the fictional character, Dr. Fraser Crane, who says, "I have a degree from Harvard. When I'm wrong, the world makes a little less sense." Through his research, Grant challenges us to rethink and to unlearn, a skill that eludes Balaam and perhaps eludes many of us. Grant demonstrates how rethinking and unlearning requires intellectual humility, knowing what we don't know. And he even encourages us to start making lists of areas that we are ignorant in so that we can begin to open the door for doubt. So, for example, his list includes chemistry and why we can't tickle ourselves, a very essential question. And my list might include interior design or weather patterns. By questioning our current understanding, we become curious about what information we may be missing. And this search in turn leads us to new discoveries. Grant explains that if power is knowledge and knowing, then what we don't know is wisdom. And thus he encouraged all of us to all act like scientists, favoring humility over pride, doubt over certainty, curiosity over closure. If we already think we have found the truth, we'll never be able to see the gaps in our knowledge. And I found this particularly interesting because as a young girl, I was always taught to have conviction and to fight for my beliefs. And absolutely, this is definitely a lesson that we should teach our children. But how often do we teach them, or frankly ourselves, that it's okay to change our minds, that it's just as essential to be open to that which is revealed to us? Rethinking our assumptions isn't a weakness, it's a strength. Grant's research is obviously more nuanced, and I highly recommend reading his book, but he posits a new goal for all of us, one of confident humility, in which we have faith in our capabilities while at the same time appreciating that we might not have the right solution or even be addressing the right problem. How might Balaam's story have ended differently had he possessed confident humility? Would he have reconsidered his journey to curse the Israelites? Would he have heeded the obvious warnings from his donkey instead of waiting him to miraculously speak? Instead, Balaam simply cannot see or refuses to see the warnings that are before him. Imagine what blessings await us and awaited him should we stop holding on to our convictions so tightly to what we know and instead just try leaning into our doubts to what we don't know. Maybe this be the world that we embrace on the Shabbat, a world that is filled with endless discovery, even if it means we have to rethink a few details like the names of our favorite dolls. Wishing you a Shabbat Shalom.
This works so much better when you turn it on. It's an amazing thing. Sorry, everybody at home. It's not so easy to do what Rabbi Bernie was just teaching us to do. Because sometimes the encountering our doubts and attempting to live in peace with them comes face to face with things that we really, really wish we could wish away. Perhaps that's the function of Misha Berach, to both express that prayer that comes from the deep place in the heart, oh my gosh, for my family member, friend, myself, co-worker, somebody at school, person who I'm praying is going to be well. I get the opportunity to cry out with words that I know, words that are known and cherished in our community and have connected me to others who have felt these sentiments before. Another part of it is recognizing that there's going to be no magic elixir that will make those prayers come true. And so what we're really attempting to do is to fortify ourselves for the type of growth that Rabbi Bernie was just describing, so that we can be vessels of healing for ourselves and for others. There will be no magic trick, but that does not mean that refuah shlema, that complete healing, whether it of the body or of the spirit, is not a possibility, and not the kind of thing perhaps that we ourselves can actually affect, can make happen. And so I want to invite you, if there is someone in mind and in heart on this Shabbat evening, someone who you'd like to include in our collective prayer for healing, I'll invite you, if you wish to do so and you're able to stand, I'll just make eye contact with you so that you can speak those names aloud in our congregation. For those of you praying with us at home as well, please use this time to speak aloud their names. Let us include them for our collective prayer on this Shabbat. The words for our prayer for healing, Misha Berach, can be found in the middle of page 253. Misha Berach Avotenu habracha leimotenu. May the source of strength who blessed the ones before us help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi shebeirach imotenu mekor habracha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say Amen. Aleinu can be found at the bottom of page 282. If you're able, I'll invite you to stand at this time. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. page 287. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ ביום ההוא, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד, ושמו אחד. Some words to help us prepare for the recitation of Kaddish this evening, words not found in the prayer book. They're wrong, the scientists. The universe wasn't created billions of years ago. The universe is created every day. The scientists are wrong to claim the universe was created from one primordial substance. The world is created every day from various substances, with nothing in common. Only the relative proportions of their masses, like the elements of sorrow and hope, make them companions and curbstones. I'm sorry. I have to get up in all modesty and disagree with what is so sure and recognized by experts that there's no speed faster than the speed of light. When I and my lighted flesh just noticed something else right here, whose speed is even greater than the speed of light, and which also returns, though not in a straight line, because of the curve of the universe, or because of the innocence of God. And if we connect all this to an equation, according to the rules, Maybe it will make sense that I refuse to believe that her voice, his voice, and everything I always cherished, and everything so real and suddenly lost, is actually lost forever. As we prepare to recite the Kaddish prayer this evening, we remember especially Lottie Altman, David M. Berkson, Daniel T. Bryce, Irene Broidad, Milton Brucker, Betty Cantor Cowan, Josephine Dremer, Harold Fry, Miriam Geringer, Bertha Germain, Belle Gold, Philip Goldman, Marshall Gordon, Fred Green, Michael Green, Selma Groby Riddle, Irving Kaplansky, David Leance, Bruce Grainer, Gloria Leonard, Stephen Lesser, Rita Levin, Hannah Lippert, Fina Lodico, Rolinda Lowe, Mark Gary Markowitz, Beatrice Mencher, Kathy Moore, Ray Moss, Morris Neiman, Patricia M. Neiser, Louis Ortner, Don Rothenberg, Esther Schiffman, Daniel R. Schreier, Milton W. Snyder, Ruth Solway, Richard Weinberg. Other names we should include? If so, please speak them aloud. We think as well of all those who we name in our hearts and the innocent victims of COVID-19 all over the world. And of course, we also call to mind those who have perished as innocent victims of violence in a world that we must nourish toward peace. Holding them all close at heart, we say, Zecher Tzadik Livracha, the memory of the righteous is an everlasting blessing, as we give thanks for the blessing of life with the words of Mourner's Kaddish found on page 294. If you're able, I'd ask you to rise. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'v'yamechon, u'v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'yisman karev v'imru, Amen. Yehi shemei Rabbah mevarach le'alam u'lamei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'al v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal, shemei dekudsha b'richu. Le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechemata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru, Amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya v'chayim, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru, Amen. Oseh shalom bimrumav, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru, Amen. May the giver of peace send peace to all who mourn and comfort to all who are bereaved among us, and let us together say, Amen. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimroma, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu ya'aseh shalom aleinu. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, ya'aseh shalom, Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. I wish you a Shabbat Shalom. I remind you that we'll be right here in this chapel every Friday all summer long, 7:30 p.m. right here. Yeah, you can give that a round of applause.
Yeah.
Welcome home, everybody.